You're listening to the Franchise Freedom Podcast with Giuseppe Grammatico.
Okay, and welcome to the Franchise Freedom Podcast. I'm your host, Giuseppe Grammatico, your franchise guide, and just wanted to thank everyone for joining us today. Really excited for this episode. We have my good friend, Tara Thomas from Fran Fund, coming back on the show for the second time. Welcome, Tara. Glad you can make it today.
Yes, thank you for having me, Giuseppe. I'm happy to be on your show twice now.
Awesome. So that's an honor. Only a handful of people have made it to the second guest appearance. So, but
thank you.
Absolutely. For anyone listening and listen to the first show, I got some great comments, compliments, and I used that episode to kind of give an introduction on funding. So I thought it would be beneficial to bring Tara back on and talk maybe some updates and what's going on in the funding world. But before we get into that and before we answer your questions, give us, Tara, a little bit of a kind of a background, a little bit about yourself and how did you get into funding?
Sure. So I actually started my career, in franchising over 20 years ago. So I worked for a moving franchise at a local level, and then kind of moved myself up and worked at the corporate office doing development and training before I became a franchisee myself. So it was an exciting way to kind of kick off my career, honestly, right out of college. So I sold that franchise to move and get married and have my children. And now I get to work on this side of it. So I happen to work with one of my very best friends, and she works for Fran Fund as well. And we ended up being in franchising together. And, she just had been working with Fran Fund for a while and thought it would be a good fit. And they had a position available, and the rest is history. So I've been with Fran Fund now for 4 years. And it's fun to really help people to achieve their dreams of business ownership by helping them with the funding side of things.
Money, right? You need money to buy these things. And I tell everyone that this is not no money down and let's just, let's figure it out later. So very, very important. So what does Fran Fund do just in general? We'll go through the specific products.
So, really, we work with aspiring entrepreneurs because most are unsure of where to start. They're unfamiliar with options. They're overwhelmed with info, so we help them to identify and execute those strong funding solutions. So we help people to obtain SBA loans. We also facilitate the ROB strategy. It can be a combination of those two, commercial fleet leasing programs. We talk to people sometimes about home equity lines of credit or portfolio loans, even if it's not something we facilitate. So it's just really working with the candidate to find the right funding solution that's specific to their needs and their business opportunity.
That's great. And some people feel like they have to have that all figured out ahead of time. And what I advise and what you told me to advise, in our conversations is basically just go in with an open mind, put together your financials, what's your cash, your retirement, value of your home, the list goes on, and have you walk them through the process. And I think every single person I talk with, I guess, as I'm standing at my desk here, my standing desk, we send them over because I say, go in early on in the process and have that conversation just to see, hey, what is my budget? What can I maybe get pre-qualified for so that you have a good idea? It's like buying a home. You have to have a budget. You don't look at $1 million homes when you can afford a $400,000 home. So it's just a good way. It's a good exercise to get all your financials together. With that being said, I stress how important it is to have those conversations up front. What are your thoughts? Should someone wait until they have a franchise in mind, or is earlier the better to have this conversation?
Yeah, I think, each candidate can be slightly different. For somebody that has a lot of cash and could self-fund a business if they wanted to, maybe they can wait a little bit longer, right? Because they know they have their options. But if you're really thinking or know that you can't bootstrap this on your own, or you don't want to, and you want an SBA loan, or you want to just learn about different funding options, early is always best. So we really have an educational and consultative approach. So it starts with just a phone call. It's just a call, talking with me or somebody else on our team. As you said, we have them complete a really high level brief financial questionnaire that just gives us a quick snapshot. What do you think your credit score is? How much cash do you have? Retirement, like you said, value of homes. So we're just kind of getting that idea. And sometimes it can help you to determine, or your candidates obviously, to determine what they might qualify for or what they're comfortable investing. So a lot of times our franchise business consultant partners, just like yourself, Giuseppe, it'll help us. So I can say, hey, Joe's probably good at looking at a, $250,000 range, franchise opportunity, or they could go up to $1 million, or what that could look like. So it's just educational on the front end. And then as they get deeper in the process and somebody finds an opportunity or two of interest, we can go through that pre-approval process and make sure to get them the pre-approval letter in hand, which is awesome. Because like you said, you can't buy a house without getting pre-approved for a mortgage. So our pre-approval process is free, no obligation, and no hard credit inquiry.
And then what about so the consultation? There's no cost. So when do they, I guess, have to pay a fee?
Yeah. So what our services include is really a loan consultation service. So we have a team of folks in-house that focus their full-time efforts on helping candidates to obtain these types of small business loan. We actually do the initial underwriting in-house. We provide our clients with the templates for their business plan, financial projections, performas. We're really putting together that package to make sure that it's got a nice red bow on it before we present it to our network of lenders. So all of the consultation and the pre-approval before engaging in our services is no cost or obligation. When and if somebody says, we were able to get them a pre-approval, they say, I want to move forward with this franchise and I want to work with Fran Fund to help me to obtain my loan. That's when they would engage in our services. And it's a $2,500 lending consultation service fee, regardless of how much money is borrowed. So if they're borrowing $150,000 or $1 million, it's the same $2,500 lending consultation fee.
That's great. And they get an advisor walking them through every step of the process, which is
until the loan is funded. Yes. I mean, every question. So again, we do that initial underwriting. It's got a nice, our goal is to always get multiple term sheets so you can, pick what lender you want to work with and find the best deal for your opportunity. And then we hold your hand throughout the entire process.
Awesome. That's huge. And there's a lot of value there. And best part is you get to look at, sometimes it's a combination of which we'll get into here in a second, but combination of products. Maybe it's not one or the other. It's a combo in a certain order to make this all work. And we've worked on a few projects together. So someone is thinking about owning a franchise and they're just not certain if they have enough money. So what is a good range to have financial requirements? Maybe for this example, do we focus on an SBA loan, or what realistically do they need to put up front? And what does that term look like? Is that a 10-year loan? What does that look like?
Sure. So an SBA loan, very specifically, the banks are going to want to make sure that the borrower has good credit. So it's typically 680 or better credit, no recent bankruptcies or foreclosures, and not a ton of revolving credit card debt that's carried over and not paid off month to month. And they're always going to want to make sure that they have skin in the game, right? The bank is never going to lend you 100%. So I will tell you that today, Giuseppe, for a startup, most lenders are really comfortable with a 20% cash injection. So for example, if we're looking at a $250,000 project cost, the borrower is going to have to put in $50,000 and then the bank's going to lend you $200,000. Typically the largest portion of that franchise fee that cash injection or covering that 20% cash injection when we're talking about a franchise is paying the franchise fee or the territory fee. So that counts towards your cash injection. And banks are pretty conservative, right? So they do also want to make sure that you're not putting every dollar that you have into the business. So in using that example of a $250,000, if you only have $50,000 of cash, you're probably going to have a little bit more, right? Because you still have to have, and it can vary from lender to lender. Some lenders are okay with having 10% of the loan amount left over in cash. Some might want 12 months of monthly loan payments available. So, in order to get into a small business today, you're probably going to have a minimum, I'd say, of $65,000 to $70,000 of cash to qualify for SBA lending. And then maybe you have great credit and you have really good income, but you don't have the cash currently. That's where we could look at either using your retirement, if you have retirement, to do a ROB strategy in combination with an SBA loan. And if you don't have the retirement and assets are just limited, we have a really great unsecured lending program where those lenders, they're not requiring cash out of pocket. They just want to see that you can have a 700 or better credit score and good outside income and a good debt to income ratio. Oh, and you asked on the terms. Did you want me to hit on that? A term on an SBA loan?
Yes. And then, what would be an average term, lengthwise?
Yeah.
Right?
So typically on an SBA loan, it's a 10-year term. There are no prepayment penalties. So that's really great. And the interest rates today are at Wall Street Journal Prime plus 2.75. As of today, Prime is at 5.5. So that's going to give you a total of 8.25. That is a variable rate that is adjusted quarterly when and if that prime rate moves. So what the bank is adding on is fixed, but it is adjusted when and if the Feds move the prime rate.
That's good to know. And this is the beauty of what you do, is that you can walk people through this to see which combination of products is the best fit, because some people just may not be comfortable using their retirement plan, or may not even know that they, most people I talk to, I'd say 9 out of 10 or 9.5 out of 10. I'm gonna throw a half. Have no idea that you can actually use your retirement. Obviously, they need to qualify, and we can get into that. But it's interesting. I had no idea when I started purchased my first franchise years ago. No idea I can use my retirement. I had plenty there to fund it, and I had to go out and get a personal loan. Looking back, I could have just easily funded it. But anyway,
that's normal, because we've always been taught not to touch our retirement, right, which is very sound advice. So, but what people don't realize in the Rob strategy is it really is an investment. It's not a loan. You're just investing into yourself and your own small business versus the traditional market. And, a lot of people they're able, especially with the volatility in the market recently, we have seen many clients that are getting a better return while investing in themselves and their own business.
Right. Absolutely. And the $1 million question, and I'll answer it, is which is the best route? And there is no right or wrong. It's really what's the best fit for you. So what I do and what Tara does is we'll give options, we'll explain it. There's a lot of education involved, but at the end of the day, you need to kind of put together what your thoughts are, what you're going to be most comfortable with. So just because the Robs is your money and there's no interest rate necessarily to pay it back, you just may not be comfortable. And if you're bothered by that, maybe we look elsewhere. But it's good to get educated to see kind of what's out there. So,
and it's funny, I get that question all the time from candidates, especially the candidates that have options. I think sometimes people like being told this is the only option you have because it makes it easy. So for the candidates that have options, they say, well, what would you do? What's the right thing? What should I do? And I give the same answer. Like some people are okay with taking on debt and paying interest and fees, and that's totally fine. Other people just are debt adverse, maybe in their day-to-day life. They live debt free. They don't want to, so they are comfortable investing their retirement and not having the overhead of a monthly loan payment. And there's not a right or wrong answer. And as you said, everybody's situation is different.
Right. No, that's great. And on occasion, I'll put you on the spot on this one, but on occasion, sometimes is there an option that maybe is not covered under Fran Fund? So maybe it's an option that, and what would that look like?
So we do not facilitate home equity lines of credit in-house. That's been, a popular option as well. I typically will tell somebody to use their own local bank or credit union because they're going to get the best service. So I just had a client very recently that was looking at a pretty minimal investment. It was only 100 to 150, and she had a home equity line of credit available for 200,000, already closed. There were already paid closing fees. It was a better interest rate than an SBA loan. And I just said, this is probably a better option than you going through SBA if you're comfortable using it. You've already paid the closing costs. You already have a better interest rate for this amount of debt that you're going to take on. This is going to be a better option. She goes, I thought about it. I just wasn't sure. And now that I'm talking to you, I realize it. Again, I'm never going to, just like you, Giuseppe, I'm not going to sell somebody something that they don't need just to make a sale. That's not what I do. I've owned a small business. I'm never going to put somebody in a situation that I don't feel like is best for them. Another thing is, a securities back line of credit or a portfolio loan. So for those people that might be really well qualified or maybe even overqualified, which is possible for an SBA loan, which I can touch on, but maybe you have a large amount in the stock market, a large brokerage account. Usually you can talk to your wealth manager about a securities back line of credit that can be closed typically very quickly. And it's usually a smaller interest rate than you would see for an SBA loan. So sometimes I will suggest that as well because, an SBA, I'll kind of back up and get really to basics real quick, but the Small Business Administration, which is part of our federal government, is this type of loan, but the SBA does not lend money directly. The bank is lending money to your business. On an SBA loan, you are always signing a personal guarantee. So you are saying that if for any reason the business cannot afford to make that monthly loan payment, that you're personally responsible for that debt and securing it with any and all assets. And then once you sign your personal guarantee, the bank comes in and signs a secondary guarantee for a large portion of the loan to the bank. And that's why banks really prefer SBA loans. I have clients say, well, what if just a non-SBA business loan? And really, we don't see that, especially for startups. They want that government backing.
Right.
Well, they also have something that's called credit elsewhere. So basically, if you have the ability to get credit elsewhere, then you don't need this SBA loan, this government-backed loan. The funny thing is that there's not a hard, fast rule to this that the SBA puts on it. So it is up to a lender's discretion. Most of our lenders are going to say, like, if you have 3 times the total project cost in liquid assets, meaning cash or stocks, you don't need this loan.
Right.
They don't count retirement or equity in real estate. But sometimes I have people, that I talk to and they say, hey, I want a $250,000 loan and I have $1.5 million in cash and stocks. And they're overqualified. So I would suggest a home equity line of credit or a portfolio loan.
I always find, I know from personal experience, the home equity is good to have, maybe not to fund the business, but to have it as an emergency backup. And that's what I, on occasion had to use that if there were payroll costs or project got behind, or there was just, customer getting behind with payments. So it's always a good idea to have. And I highly recommend just having that as a, what is that? Just to kind of cover yourself in the event that things are slow. Yeah.
Yeah. So, or, we see more and more people doing multiple territories or multiple units. So holding on to cash and equity, if you're looking to open up a second territory or unit down the road, even eventually is always really helpful.
Right. Absolutely. We are, you know what? Let's pause here for a second. I have a quick word from our sponsor, the SMB Podcast Network. So let me play this video. We hope you're enjoying the show. This episode of Franchise Freedom is brought to you by the SMB Podcast Network.com. The network is a collection of podcasts and shows from around the internet, which focus on bringing you interviews with amazing guests who share actionable advice, ideas, and information for small and medium-sized business owners and entrepreneurs. Visit www.smbpodcastnetwork.com to find more great shows and easily subscribe to be notified of new episodes. It's a great way to discover quality content. If you discovered us today via the network, then I hope you're enjoying the show and will consider subscribing directly so you never miss any of our great episodes. Now back to the show. We are back, and that worked. I'm glad. The last show we did it, the video wasn't playing. So yeah, great to check out SMB Podcast Network, and you get a whole just list of options if you want to learn about selling your business and brokerage and things like that. Definitely check it out. So continuing our conversation, a lot of great stuff. This is extremely helpful, and it's in my opinion great to know, something I didn't know existed when I purchased my first franchise, but good to know that there are people out there that can really help and assist and give options. Some people just assume there's only one way you could just a loan directly from the bank. So it's nice to know that there are options. And, when someone is kind of thinking of those options, what should they be doing now? So maybe they're in the very beginning stages, or, they're going to be, we just started talking and they said, oh, you know what, let me see what I can get a loan for, pre-qualified for. What can they be doing now to kind of prepare for that, whether it be credit scores, statements, what should they be doing now?
Sure. So again, credit score is always going to be important when you're looking to borrow. Saving, having a low amount of unsecured debt and having cash on hand is going to be helpful. Another thing when you're obtaining an SBA loan is outside income is typically pretty important. The banks know that this business is not going to make money on day one, and they want to know that there's income coming into your household while the business is getting off the ground and running for the first 12 months. So, sometimes people want to quit their jobs to start a new business, which we can certainly understand. But then it might look important, maybe if they're married, there's spousal income or rental income or dividend income, whatever that is. Income can become important. a lot of lenders are also, depending on the size of the loan and the, if it's brick and mortar and requires build out or in construction, they're likely also going to want personal collateral. And the first thing they'll look at there, Giuseppe, is real estate. So they would place a lien on your home and the equity would serve as the collateral. But, early on, I think it's just having a conversation, whether you go to franfund.com and look at all of our information, we have funding calculators there that at a high level can give you some insight. Getting on the phone, scheduling a call with a funding consultant like myself, just having that conversation. So, like you said, maybe somebody's not quite ready yet or might not be able to qualify, but we can help them to determine what it's going to take to get there.
Awesome. So would it help? So a question that comes up is, would it help if they run? Well, let me take a step back. A lot of people don't realize that you can have a side business. You can keep your job and run a semi-absentee business. So in that case, you have the fund, the down payment for the loan, but you have that constant stream of income, obviously from your employer. Does that help when applying for an SBA loan?
Yeah. It absolutely does, because the bank likes to see that there's enough income to cover their personal expenses, the new bank loan payment, and the lease payment for the business location itself for the first 12 months of operation. So that's where that outside income becomes very important to obtain an SBA loan specifically.
Which is a good thing, right? I mean, you want to make sure, when people talk to me, they'll get excited over a franchise and maybe they want to buy a large territory. I said, that's great. Obviously, you got to speak with Tara, but at the end of the day, you need to make sure there's money coming in to pay your mortgage, your auto loans, your student loans, and food and little things like that, water, utilities. Right. So I know people get excited, but you need to make sure that money is coming in so that you can pay your bills 3, 4, 6 months living expense in the bank. So something else. And
everybody's situations are different. Some people have very minimal debt where other people have, a house payment, a car payment, an RV, student loans, like you said. So that's where, again, it looks different for each person. There's, all of it's kind of fluid when you're talking about an SBA loan.
Right. Awesome. What is the, people are contacting me a little bit nervous, the Fed is increasing rates. It's going to be really expensive to get a loan. And, my comment is always like, yes, these are cyclical things, right? They're going to be increased. They're going up and down, just like the stock market, just like everything else. Can we put that in perspective? What are, I think you had mentioned was 8.25, but just maybe we'll give an example on a hypothetical, on a $200,000 loan. So maybe, as you mentioned, a $250,000 investment, that's the entire project. Yep. You put $50,000 down, you have a $200,000 loan. What has this increased? Maybe we can talk, give an example. What was the impact on a monthly basis to someone that has that SBA loan?
So on a $200,000 loan, if the interest rate were to increase a whole half of a point, the difference in your monthly payment's about $50. So, oh, wow. While it is scary to maybe think about SBA loans and interest rate changes, I hate to be so blunt, but sometimes I'll say, if your business can't afford an extra $50 a month, there's probably other issues, or maybe you got into the wrong business. So to put it in perspective too, it's been kind of this prime plus 2.75. So we did see a dip in interest rates, right? And all types of interest rates kind of during COVID, but pre-COVID, these, just 3 years ago, these interest rates were at 8.5. So we're just getting back to normal. So while people are saying, oh no, interest rates are going up. Yes. But like you said, Giuseppe, it's cyclical. They are going to go up and they might continue to go up a little bit, but they will eventually come back down. And again, on that example of a $200,000 loan, the monthly loan payment is going to change about $50 every half of a point.
But it's interesting. I didn't realize that. So you're saying pre-COVID, we are at the same level?
Slightly a little bit less still. Yes.
Wow. Okay. Yep. So see, I didn't know that either. I did not have a loan and I didn't know the rate. So that is good to know. But when you break it down and look at, okay, what is it actually costing me for $50? Okay, it's good to know. It's like, okay, that $50 really, you're not going to feel that, but you are also able to pay off loans, whatever the loan is, a little bit sooner. There's refinancing or there's going to be obviously different opportunities down the road with your expansion. And that's something that they would come back to, which is nice, right? We're putting together this long-term game plan of saying, okay, this is what I have now, but what happens in a year when I decide, hey, business is going well and I want to add an additional territory? It sounds like you're a partner for life, just like we're partners. You're a partner for life to say, okay, what's the game plan? Coach Tara, they sometimes call me Coach G. So Coach T and Coach G, what do I do? What are my options?
Yep.
So,
it's exciting. We do get clients that come back. I've had a number of clients, even in 4 short years, that have come back and said, okay, I'm ready to open my second unit or my second territory and I want another SBA loan. So as long as you qualify, the bank's going to want to look at financials from your existing business to make sure that it's positively cash flowing first, so that is important. So, making sure number one is cash flowing before lending for number two. But if you can meet the qualifications, we've gotten many SBA loans for the same client for multiple locations or businesses. As long as they do not add up to more than $5 million, you can have as many SBA loans as you can qualify for.
Wow. Lots of options. So this is the moral of the story is get your information together and go in with an open mind and explore the options. I think you'll be shocked as to what's out there. And if you have a question, such as, we had I always say, don't be shy. You have to be upfront. It's going to come up sooner than later. But if it's something that you think you're kind of ruling yourself out and you had a bankruptcy and it wasn't a recent, maybe it was 15, 20 years ago, and you're not certain, I encourage everyone have that conversation. You may come back and just say it's a little bit more recent to say, we can't get you this certain product, but in 6 months we can, because there's a certain, kind of wait period. So I think don't rule yourself out. Give yourself a chance. Have that conversation. There's no cost for the conversation, but at least you can, if not ready now, put together a plan for the very near future.
Agreed.
Anything I missed? Anything we didn't talk about today? Obviously, there's so many different plans.
I feel like we talked about it, and I won't go too much into it because I know we want to keep this limited. But if you don't like debt, if you don't like interest, and if you have a healthy retirement savings, ROBS, which stands for Rollover for Business Startup, is always, there's nothing to qualify for. So if you don't have great credit, if you don't have collateral, if you don't have income, you're not applying for anything. You are simply, again, investing money that you currently have invested in the market into your own business where it can continue to grow. That process is a faster process too, because it only takes about 3 to 4 weeks. And again, maybe you don't have the cash sitting in your savings account to cover the 20% for an SBA loan. It can be used in combination. But that is a really, really great strategy as well. And we facilitate that program.
Can you touch on, because it comes up a lot. So who qualifies for a ROBS?
Anybody that has money that's in a previous employer 401k, or maybe it's a 403b or 457, or maybe they rolled those funds into a rollover IRA. So really, it's a shorter list of what's not eligible for that program. So current employers will not allow you to access funds typically while still employed. So it can't be a current employer plan G, but it can't be a Roth IRA very specifically, but any type of previous employer plan or combination of those plans can be used for this strategy. And typically just because of the cost associated with it, we do not facilitate that program if they have less than $50,000 to invest into a business.
So that's good to know. So, and
there's no max. So, I mean, if somebody has $1 million and they want to invest their entire $1 million into a small business, they can do so with this ROBS strategy.
Okay. You said for the most part. So if someone is not certain they're with their current employer to see if they are eligible, what do they do? Is there something they can easily check on?
Yeah. I mean, sometimes you can find it online or in plan documents if you log onto your account and see that you can do a in-service rollover, or they might have to call, if it's Vanguard or Fidelity. And typically what I would tell them to say is, can I roll my funds out into an IRA while I still work here? Some plans, if you're over the age of 55 or 59, they allow you to. Otherwise, again, it's not very common, but it's not a rule against, for free and fund or the ROBS strategy or the IRS. It's just that most employers don't allow you to. But you can always, if somebody, I've had lots of clients that I really want to do it. Or I will mention this. A lot of times when you change jobs, you will roll over funds from a previous employer, right? Just because you want to consolidate them. Oftentimes, your employer will allow you to roll out what you had rolled in from your previous employer. So if you have, $150,000 that you rolled in from a previous employer, that could be eligible for use.
Okay, awesome. So people have options, and they should definitely explore, or maybe they have some IRAs that they found, or that kind of thing, working with their financial advisor. So
that happens.
It happens. So what didn't we talk about today? What did we miss? Something?
No,
we talked at a high level. Yeah.
One thing that was just recently announced with the SBA, because with COVID, they've kind of had a couple of different programs when it comes to SBA lending. And until September 30th of 2022, they were actually waiving the SBA guarantee fee for any loan beneath $350,000. They've actually just extended that till next year. So that will go into effect October 1st of this year until September of 2023. And they have extended it or made it higher. So any loan that is beneath $500,000 now will not have an SBA guarantee fee. So depending on the loan, I mean, that's saving you, 2 to 3% in fees. So that's an advantage currently for SBA loans that will be funded in the next calendar year.
So you add that. So finding out you got 2 to 3% savings. You got rates are lower than they were pre-COVID. It busts a lot of myths. So
yep.
I'm not. You know what? I'm not even talking funding anymore. I'm just going to send everyone this link, because this was. I get in trouble because we talk at a very high level, and it's always, Tara is the expert here, but this is great information. I didn't even know that. So
good.
Learned some new things today. Well, awesome. Well, listen. Yeah, no, it's super helpful because there's only, the environment's always changing, rates, where they were, where they will be. But at the end of the day, you're looking at buying a business and look for those reasons. And I think that those are the main reasons. Obviously, you want to have funding figured out and how you're going to fund that. But ultimately, what are you trying to create? What's this vehicle going to do for you? So I try to bring the focus back there. But these are all super important things, just like reviewing your franchise agreement, extremely important. You need to be comfortable with that. But it's all about the book I recommend. And no, it's not my book, although you can kind of see it here in the background. And I know your son has personally read it. Yes. So we're getting the youth reading about franchise freedom, but who, not how. It's all about the who, really kind of figuring out where you want to be and who are the people that can really help you along that journey. And anything funding, I can't recommend Tara highly enough. Every single person that we work with, we recommend send an intro email. I'm going to include all of Tara's information directly in the show notes here. There's a webinar as well. We'll post a link there, and that webinar will give you kind of a high level. I think it's every month, if I'm not mistaken, and then you put your information. It goes directly to Tara, and I believe they have access to your calendar, so they can set up that call. So we'll include all that. If there's anything we didn't discuss that we remember later on, let me know, and we'll include those in the show notes. Hopefully, we'll air here towards the end of September. So.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you having me. And I always enjoy working with you. You always have so much integrity, and I really appreciate that and the candidates that you do send this way. So if anybody has any questions, they're welcome to reach out directly. And thank you again for having me.
Yeah, I was going to say, you can contact me. I'll forward to Tara, but I'm probably not the best guy to answer some of these specific questions. I get in trouble, but now this is an honor. As I mentioned, you're on the two-timer club here, so just a handful of people. And I think we do this maybe once a year. Maybe we do updates if you're open to it.
Yes, of course.
And we just talk about and just reinforce. A lot of what we say, it doesn't change so much, but there are updates, and maybe people have missed previous episodes. Sure. So maybe we do this. We do an annual thing. We change our backgrounds. I got to change my background. We'll do something a little crazy, but always an honor. And looking forward to chatting very soon.
Thanks, Giuseppe.
Yeah, Tara. Bye-bye.
Thanks for tuning in. Whenever you're ready, here are 3 ways Giuseppe can help. 1. If you've ever considered owning a business of any kind, you owe it to yourself to get a copy of Giuseppe's book, Franchise Freedom. Download your free copy at ggthefranchiseguide.com/book. 2. Want to understand how successful executives make the transition from corporate to owning their own franchise? Join Giuseppe's next online presentation, Franchise Freedom, how to escape the corporate world and have financial and time freedom by owning a franchise by going to ggthefranchiseguide.com/video. 3. Want to work with Giuseppe one-on-one to identify the right franchise opportunity for you, to navigate the process, and get plugged into experienced franchising advisors? Send him an email to gg@ggthefranchiseguide.com with one-on-one in the subject, and he'll send you all the details.